meatloaf. This is a pretty easy thing to make. I'm going to go over the recipe first. You need 1 cup of tofu. I use this brand, Morinu Tofu, and the reason why I use it is because it tastes better than the other ones to me, but most importantly, they use non-GMO soy. If you know anything about genetically modified foods, I'm going to try to stay away from them as much as you can. So 1 cup of tofu, a half cup of water, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 tablespoon of Bragg's liquid aminos. You can get this at Ingles too in the center, by the way. Or you can use 2 teaspoons of soy sauce in its place. You want a 1/4 cup of gluten flour or cornstarch. That binds the meatloaf and makes it hold together instead of falling apart crumbling. 1½ teaspoons of sea salt, 1 tablespoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning, or sage. Sage gives things a holiday kind of taste, so if you want to use that in its place, you can. 3 cups of soft breadcrumbs. When I first saw this in a vegan cookbook, I said, where do I get breadcrumbs? What does that mean? Well, what you do is you take a piece of bread and you crumble it up. You can put it in a blender or whatever, and it turns crumbly. You don't want to blend it too long or it'll get moist and start kind of caking up. You don't want it to do that. Okay, and then we have 2 cups of nuts. I use 1 cup of pecans and 1 cup of walnuts. You can switch this up any way you want to. You can use sunflower seeds, cashews, anything you want, but those are the cups that I chose. I mean, the seeds that I chose. 2 cups of finely chopped onion. That sounds like a lot of onion for a nut loaf, but it really makes it savory. And then the way that I do it, I just cut it in chunks and blend it up in the Vitamix. That saves you a lot of time, so you're not sitting there cutting forever. Alright, and then the topping, I'm not going to demonstrate because you just mix it in a bowl. I don't want to insult your intelligence by doing that, but it's sweet tomato topping. It's 8-ounce can of crushed pineapple, the little bitty cans, an 8-ounce can of tomato sauce, 1 tablespoon of molasses, a ½ teaspoon of basil, and a 1/4 cup of garlic powder. You can add tomato paste to make it thicker and bake it on while it's in the oven. Or you can switch this up. I mean, this is an easy thing. Whatever tomato topping you like to put on your meatloaf will probably work for this too. It's not that big of a deal. So I'm going to get started first. I brought a piece of bread to just show you how this works because I was highly amused by this, believe it or not. Just rip it into pieces, put it in the Vitamix, and turn it on. Voila, breadcrumbs. Yeah. Okay. Now, a Vitamix is an industrial-style blender, and they're rather pricey, but if you're serious about becoming a vegetarian, especially a vegan, it's a very good investment because they. So what I want to do next is take my tofu, cut the top off of it, and drain it. Now, it doesn't call for a whole box of tofu, just a cup. Now, you may want to be more careful than me, but I'm not real careful. So I just kind of dump things in like this. See, I got about 1/4 of it holding it in there, and that's about a cup because I've measured it out 100 times, and I've done it so many times now that I know about how much it is. But you would want to measure it your first go around. Okay, tofu and a ½ cup of water. Okay, ½ cup of water. Now sometimes what I do is cheat and I just use the whole box of tofu with the liquid in there and it does about right. So you can do that if you feel confident enough to do that. Alright, and then what I've done here is went ahead and measured out my spices because I'm a big klutz and I would mess it up if I had not. This is my onion powder. You're going to go ahead and put all your seasonings into the blender. This is my garlic powder. That was a tablespoon of onion powder. And this is a teaspoon of garlic powder. This is my Italian seasoning. 1 teaspoon. I should know this by heart. I've done it so many times. This is my beef style seasoning. Which Bo and I can get this for you, or you can get it at Wildwood, or you can get it at health food stores, or you can order it online. A lot of people choose to do that, so they don't have to go anywhere. Here's my sea salt. That's 1.5 teaspoons. This is optional. You don't have to use flaxseed. Flaxseed is extremely high in omega-3s and 6s, and I like to get it in our diet as much as possible. It doesn't change the consistency much. It makes it hold together a little bit better, but you do not have to use this. And this is a 1/4 cup of flaxseed. So that's all of our seasonings. I'm going to close this up and blend it until it's smooth and creamy.
Is that whole flaxseed or brown?
Whole flaxseed.
Or brown?
It's whole. It's whole flaxseed. If you put it in here, if you put it in with your stuff, the Vitamix will grind it up for you. You can use flax meal if you want to. You want to use a little bit, is it more? I think you want to use a little bit more, maybe 1/2 teaspoon more of the flax meal. But you can put the whole flax seeds in here and it'll grind it up for you. Yes, it's an industrial blender, I told you, and that wasn't even on high. So, all right, I've got my breadcrumbs in my bowl, and the next thing I'm going to do is just dump in my onions. I've already cut this and measured it just for time's sake. This is 2 cups of onions, and it takes me about 2 large onions, maybe 2 large onions and 1/2. Just, onions are all different sizes, but you want 2 cups of onion. These are my nuts. These are walnuts. You just dump them all in. You may want to grind these up in the blender if you don't want whole nuts in there, and then it'll look more like a real meatloaf, but you don't have to do that. I forgot to put a tablespoon of bragg. So, I'm going to add that and blend it in. Yes, you can use soy sauce in the place of Bragg's if you can't find Bragg's, which I can get it for you, so you shouldn't have a problem finding it. But you want to use a little bit more soy sauce, like 1/2. Like if we did a tablespoon of this, you want to use a tablespoon and 1/2 of soy sauce because it's not quite as salty as Bragg's. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is mix up my dry ingredients first, just so it's not so hard and messy to mix up with the wet. I like to make a little well on the inside, make a little hole so your liquid can go in there. You don't squash it out the sides. You just pour it in. Now this does not have the gluten flour in it, so you don't have to knead it and mix it with your hands like Tracy did before. But you do want to mix it well enough so that all of the breadcrumbs get wet in the tofu. One thing I like to tell people when they ask me how to become a vegetarian or how to become a vegan, they kind of say, what do you eat? I don't know what to eat. They think you eat salads and potatoes all the time. Well, what you do is don't panic, first of all. Think about what you would normally make. Like you would make meatloaf, macaroni and cheese, and peas, or whatever. Just take what you would normally make that night and turn it into a vegan recipe. And you can do that by going online. If you want to make a meatloaf, go online and put search in the search engine on Google or whatever. Put vegan meatloaf recipe. And, 500 will pop up, and you can choose whichever one you want. And then put in vegan macaroni and cheese recipe, and then go by that recipe. So you don't have to come up with, new and unusual meals. You do it exactly the same as you would before. You just make it vegan. That took me about 6 months to a year to learn, sadly. You just spray your pan. I've got just a large size bread pan, just what you would normally make or use to make your meatloaf. Sorry if that's in everybody's way. So you just plop it in your bread pan. And I've got some dry crumblies in there, which you will have. You can just kind of mix them in the bread pan. It's not a big deal. Then you take the back of your spoon and you press it down. And you make it smooth. You want it smooth on top. Because after it's finished baking, you're going to get out a nice platter of whatever you want to serve it on. It looks pretty. And you're going to dump it over. Flip it on where the bottom side is up. And that's when you would put the tomato topping on there, unless you baked it on top while it was in the oven. You can do that too, whichever style you prefer. Okay. So there we go. We have a vegan nut loaf. And it says to, I didn't even put how to cook it on there, did I? Look at your sheet and see if it says anything different than mine. I'm so worried about the topping, I forgot to tell you what to do. What you're going to do is bake this covered for 1 hour on 350 degrees. And then you're going to take the foil off of the top and bake it for another 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, you bake it covered for 1 hour on 350. And then you uncover it and bake it again for 30 minutes. And when it is finished baking, well, first what you want to do is take a toothpick or a fork, stick it through the middle just like you would anything else, a cake or whatever, and make sure that nothing comes out on the stick because you want it to be done in the middle. Otherwise, if you flip it over, it'll kind of fall apart. It's still good that way. If you flip it over and it falls apart, you stick it back in the oven, it all fell apart, and it'll cook, and you can cut it where it's still pretty and everything. You just won't be able to serve it as a centerpiece.
Is that what you make the crumbles out of?
No, it's not. Doing that in a minute. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Did I misspeak or
Could you just go through the entire recipe again for the camera once more and the cooking part of it as well?
All right, it's 1 cup of tofu, half a cup of water, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 tablespoon of Bragg's liquid aminos, or 2 teaspoons of soy sauce. That's supposed to be tablespoons. 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. 1/4 gluten flour, 1/4 cup of gluten flour or cornstarch that binds it together. 1½ teaspoon salt. 1 tablespoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning or sage during the holidays, 3 cups of soft breadcrumbs, 2 cups of nuts, whatever kind of nuts you choose. I use pecans and walnuts. 2 cups finely chopped onions, and that's it. And then on the sweet tomato topping, it's 8-ounce can of crushed pineapple, 1 8-ounce can of tomato sauce, a tablespoon of molasses, a ½ teaspoon of basil, a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, and then you just mix those in a bowl. And after your product is finished, you turn it over on a platter and just pour the tomato topping over it. No questions? Sorry about the directions not being on there. Did everybody get those? You bake it at 350 for an hour, and then that's covered, and then 30 more minutes uncovered.
You don't cook the topping at all?
No, you do not cook it. You just mix it up and serve it. But what I was saying, and I think I put it on here, yeah, by the asterisk, you can add tomato paste to make it thicker if you want it baked on. If you want it baked on, you just go ahead and mix it up before you put it in the oven with the tomato paste in there, and glob it on the top of it and just bake it like that. But I prefer not to bake the topping. It's just all preference. Ready for some samples? Yes.